is episode number 5 of the Hold Fast podcast, where we have biblical truths for daily battles. My name is Kenny. I'm the host of the podcast, and today I'm about to step on my own toes and talk about something that you probably expected me to talk about at some point, because we all need to deal with it, and that is our obsession and addiction to our devices and to social media and just consuming content and being online in general. It's no secret that technology is a gift. I mean, let me just acknowledge that up front. I mean, I'm gonna talk about some things that may feel like I'm trying to say that all technology is bad and we just need to get rid of it all and go back to Stone Ages, and I'm not saying that at all. I believe that technology is a gift. I believe that even social media can be a tremendous gift, and we should use it for the glory of God if we're going to use it. And I also believe that a lot of this needs to boil down to personal conscience. Some of us are going to be more prone to abuse this gift than others. Some of us can have better self-control than others. I tend to fall in the category where I don't have self-control, and so I need to hear a whole lot of what I'm about to say. I'm literally sharing this from the struggle. I'm sharing this from a place of failing at this far more often than I should. But there was a guy by the name of Tony Reinke who recently wrote a book called 12 Ways Your Phone is Changing You. And I would recommend the book, that you check it out and at least skim through it. And so I'm going to share a few quotes from that book, kind of like I did in the parenting episode where I took some quotes from Paul Tripp, and just some things to think about. I'm not going to cover all of my thoughts on this subject. It would probably take an hour podcast or even more to really dive into some of this, but we try to keep it at 15 minutes or so here, so I'm going to try to stick within that time frame. One of the things that I want to talk about specifically in this episode is our addiction, not just to social media, but it's almost like we're addicted to conflict on social media. We love to post something that we know is going to offend somebody else, that we know is going to fly in the face of somebody that we disagree with, and then we just dare people to respond to it. And the moment that they do, we're not really interested in conversation. All we're interested in is just firing back. And so Tony Reinke asked some questions that are helpful before we post something, and I'm going to read a few of them. And the number one question, I think, here is the first one that he submits, where he says, will this post, this comment, this thing that I'm about to do on social media, will this ultimately glorify me or God? Am I looking for attention, or am I looking to put the attention on Christ? Now, we can to some degree get overly legalistic about this, because I don't know that we need to make every single post a Bible verse or something like that. I mean, we can post about our food and our kids and all those things. That brings glory to God as we show the gifts that God's given us in some way. But ask yourself, am I seeking to glorify me or glorify God? Another question. Will this merely document that I know something that others don't? And here's a big one. We try so hard to post something that other people don't know. We try so hard to post something that's just going to make everybody realize how smart we are, and when really there's nothing new under the sun. When really all that we're trying to do is seek attention for ourselves. Here's another important question. Will this fortify unity or stir up unnecessary division? Will this pursue unity and peace, or is this going to stir up unnecessary division? Now, truth divides. I get that. And Jesus even said, I didn't come to bring peace but a sword, and I'm going to divide people, because the gospel does that, right? Because people are offended by the gospel. But as Vodi Bakum has said, and I've repeated before, the gospel is offensive. You don't have to be, right? And it seems to me like so often we're trying to be offensive on there when we just don't need to be. So let's be mindful of the things that we post. Honestly, that was something that I wanted to challenge at the front end of this conversation, because I feel like, especially now that we have our phones in our pockets and we just have quick access to deal with this, you see people all the time who will tell you that they're too busy to hang out or be a part of church or community, and yet they don't stop posting on social media. They don't stop engaging in this conflict and this just never-ending cycle, which really doesn't serve anybody. It just stirs up unnecessary division. So I wanted to challenge you in that, to check your heart. I'm not saying don't engage in the public circle and debates. I'm just asking, check your heart. Are you seeking to glorify yourself or the Lord? Now, let's shift gears a little bit, and let's address myself here, and let me step on my own toes, if you will. many of us, not all of us, I don't know that I can even say most of us and be confident of that, at least those that are listening, but many of us are addicted to our phones. And when I say phones, I'm speaking of games and apps and social media. I'm talking about all of it. I'm talking about just technology and being immersed in technology. You can't go anywhere these days where people have to wait, like whether it's a doctor's waiting room or whether it's in line waiting to order your food. Everybody is just, their head is stuck in their phones. If you see somebody eating alone at a table, their head is stuck in their phones. We see families eating together at a table often, and their faces are just plummeted into their phones. And even when they're interacting, a lot of times their interaction is centered around what they are looking at on their device. We've lost the art of social interaction. In many ways, we've also lost the art of being bored. Let me talk about that for a minute. I think I'm going to address this because this is probably my biggest problem. We've lost the art of being able to just sit in silence. We feel like we have to be doing something. For example, if I'm watching a TV show even, which I'm not knocking any of these things. If I'm watching a TV show and a commercial comes on, what do? I pull out my phone because I don't want to see this commercial. I want to do something useful with my time, like scroll through Facebook, right? It's like we just can't just sit. When's the last time you just went outside for a walk? I mean, I walk my dog in our neighborhood, and I feel like I have to have my phone with me. Why can't I just walk and just be in God's creation and just meditate on the Lord? That's something that we're losing that's really huge, by the way. We don't know how to just meditate with the Lord. And we feel like what we have to do is we've got to be consuming something. Like even in our relationship with Jesus, I've got to be listening to some podcast or reading something or doing something. Yes, those things are great. But sometimes what you need to do is you need to meditate. There's a word that you see in most Bibles, I think, in the book of Psalms. And it'll be off to the side. And it's the word Selah. And it means stop and think. Stop and think. Everything that we just said, everything that we just read, stop and think about it. Ponder it. What does it mean? What are the implications? You go, Kenny, I thought we were supposed to talk about phones. We are, and I think that in large part, in my own life, my phone stops me from doing that. It stops me from resting. I've got fear of missing out, FOMO. I think that, man, if I could just scroll 5 more minutes and just get one more meme that's going to make me laugh, like this is how I unwind, this is how, whatever it is. And all the while, I'm neglecting my relationship with the Lord. I'm neglecting really being fully engaged with my family. We lose the art of conversation because we feel like we just have to fill the void by looking at our phones until something important comes up that I now need to deal with. I want to challenge you to put down your phone. And I'm not going to give you any specific, because I think, again, this is different for every person. Maybe it's for a day, maybe it's for a week, maybe it's for a longer time that you just say, I'm only going to use my phone for calls and text messages that are important. And when I get home, it goes on Do Not Disturb. And I'm going to delete Facebook and Instagram from my phone. And, the excuse that I use, and I don't know if you may have something like this or not, the excuse I use is, well, for the church, I need to make sure that I don't miss anything important on the church's social media account. And if I'm honest, I spend just a few minutes every day maybe making a post or checking comments on there, and I can be done with it. And so I say I can't delete the app because, I need to make sure that I'm engaged because I'm the pastor of the church. But is being the pastor of the church really dependent on whether or not I engage with the Facebook? Of course it's not. But I make the excuse that it is. I tell myself that. And so I want to challenge you today. Just start with today. Just put your phone down. If you've got time to just drive in your car, just drive. You don't have to listen to that podcast. You don't have to play that song. You don't have to make that phone call. Maybe you do, but you get what I'm saying, right? Just drive in silence. If you're walking the dog in the neighborhood, just walk in silence. Don't take your phone with you. Find little ways to meditate on the truth of who God is. Find little ways just to let your mind rest. That's another thing. Like, God has designed us to need rest. That includes our minds, by the way. We need moments where we're not necessarily doing any hard mental work or scrolling through and reading. We need moments just to let our brains rest. We need to be able to sleep. We need to be able to just lay aside work for at least a little bit. Maybe something that you do is something that sounds extreme, but you take a whole day where for that entire day your phone is turned off. And I know that there are some people that they literally can't turn their phone off for sake of family emergencies or work-related things. I get that. So don't take everything literal, but just take some of these examples and go, how can I make this work in my own life? Because our phones are changing us. Our phones do have us chained to them. Here's another quote from Tony Reinke. It's a longer one, but I think this is good for us to listen to. He said, "The sad truth is that many of us are addicted to our phones because we crave immediate approval and affirmation. The fear we feel in our hearts when we are engaged online is the impulse that drives our highly selective self-representations. We want to be loved and accepted by others, so we wash away our scars and defects." And so what he's saying is, we want so bad for everybody to see that our life is perfect. And so instead of engaging with our families in the highlight moments, we want to take a picture or document it so that other people can see it and think that we're so awesome. Instead of us simply enjoying the good gift of family or the good gift of whatever it is we're engaged in. And we don't want people to see the real us. Here's really what it does boil down to. A lot of times we are using our phone as an escape from reality and as an escape from the responsibilities of our own lives. I am stepping on my own toes here. My wife very faithfully reminds me of this all the time, and even when she does, I'm too prideful or stubborn to admit it often, and I need to be better at that, and I need to fix it, and I need to learn that my relationship with Jesus is important, that my family is more important, and I'm not saying that I'm neglecting major responsibilities. I'm not saying this is like the worst thing in my life, but it is a problem. And it is an addiction, and it is often pulling me away from things that I should be engaged in. Man, I wish I could take this in so many other directions because there's so many things I want to say, but I was just kind of venting, honestly, and just letting out some of my thoughts that I've needed to remind myself of. I just want to challenge you to ask yourself the question, is my phone changing me? Am I being pulled away from more important things for something that is obviously of less importance? Am I using technology for the glory of God, or am I being used by technology? Because we all should know to some degree that these things are designed to keep us addicted to them. Facebook is designed to keep you scrolling. YouTube is designed for you to keep clicking that next video. That's what it's made for. And they're also designed to take you down a specific path of information. And so what you're doing without even realizing it is you're being taken further and further into your own opinions and biases on these things instead of letting the word of Christ transform you and direct your thinking. So it's not as simple as mindless scrolling either. We are being driven down these paths by these companies that do everything that they do just for the purpose of keeping us addicted. So challenge yourself. Challenge yourself to see what's most important. Challenge yourself to see yourself and your addiction to technology or social media or your smartphone that maybe you're just not been willing to acknowledge. And then put it down. Find ways to put it down. Find ways to be intentional and consistent at putting it down. And pursue after Jesus. And pursue after your families. Pursue after your calling that He has in your life. And when you do, use it. Because again, I'm not saying it's inherently evil. When you do use it, seek to use it for the glory of God. I hope that this hasn't been offensive or overly harsh. That's not my intent. My intent is to challenge you like I know that I've needed to be challenged in this conversation. And maybe I'll do another episode on this topic at some point as well, because there's a lot more things that I would like to talk about and maybe even get more specific. But thanks for listening, as always. I would love it, be honored if you would leave a rating and review wherever it is you listen to podcasts. I would love it if you shared this episode on Facebook if it's been helpful to you or you think that other people could use it. But just be careful who you send this to, because whenever you send it to them, they're going to think that you are telling them that they are addicted to their phone. So make sure that you're strategic about who you share this episode with. But other than that, again, thanks for listening. Hope you guys have a great week, and God bless.